Perfect. So it looks like most people have that basic familiarity, which is fantastic. So I'm going to jump straight in. I'd also like to say hi to Katrina Ferguson. She's the Australian, or actually might be the global ambassador for Pic-Time. And if I get stuck, I might have to throw to her. But let me share my screen quickly. Perfect. So if you've used Pic-Time, you'd know that here's sort of your basic dashboard. And what we're going to step through today is just starting right from the beginning. So, what are the basic store settings you need for self-fulfillment? How to use the existing Pic-Time products if you want to use the visualizations, or how to set up a custom product. And then just a couple of things about what that will look like in terms of how you see the order and how you might provide it to us. If you think of any questions, please drop them in the chat. I'll also stop at regular intervals to see if people have any questions. But if you're not self-fulfilling, there's a couple of settings that you need to adjust right from the get-go. So if you go to settings, store settings, you need to make sure that you've changed the payment collected by option to be you as the photographer. If you're self-fulfilling, you're not, Pic-Time is not responsible for taking the payment. You'll need to either select that as offline, which I've done just for the purposes of testing, or to set it up with your Square or your PayPal accounts. You also need to decide what you want to do about tax. So you can set no tax if you're not registered. You can set automated, which means that Pic-Time will look at where you're dialing in from and automatically apply the GST. You can also choose whether or not the prices you are displaying already include the tax. Unless you've got those two things, so three things, that you're going to process the payment method, and a tax setup, nothing else that we're going to do is going to work. So when you try and set up products that are self-fulfilled, it's going to throw an error. So we'll just go and apply that. Another thing you'll need to set up is self-fulfilled shipping. So if you're using an existing lab in Pic-Time, shipping rates are hard baked in. But for self-fulfilled, and if it's one of our products, you want to be setting this up in a way that means that you're not going to be out of pocket. The great thing actually about the Pic-Time shipping tiers is that they're actually really flexible. So you can create like a standard flat fee per order. You can create a fee per unit, but you can also create an entirely different shipping method. Say like expedited delivery, $8, $12, $50. You can set your shipping prices up in this screen. And then when you set the products, you can actually choose only a specific shipping method to apply to it. So if you don't want to offer express on frame prints, you don't have to. That's set in the product setup. Because you might have multiple products, maybe you'd be fulfilling some products via BPro, but you also might be fulfilling some products with another lab. Sometimes your shipping can add up. So there's the Pic-Time shipping.
How did you go?
Hi, yeah, so sorry, she just rang me back now, and she said, because it was her niece that was doing an extra one, she goes, that Ruben was going to give it today. So we actually got it, but she
I might
that
just
she didn't
find
put her
this person
name on it or anything. So I was describing to her on the phone what there was one here that hasn't got a name on it. So now I've put...
Yep, sorry about that, guys. So yeah, you need to set your shipping rates. Once you set your shipping rates, you can decide on a per product basis where to put those. So we're going to apply. The third thing in your initial store setup is the concept of holding orders. So in Pic-Time, you can set it, if you're using an integrated lab, to automatically send that order to the lab. You can also set a hold period, which gives you a couple of days to review the order, to check, your client's cropped it properly, that they've chosen an appropriate image. If you're doing, this is really handy because it gives you that opportunity to do a bit of a sense check. If you're doing offline payment though, it's automatically held. So if you're doing a self-fulfilled offline order, you need to then go into your Pic-Time panel later on and approve it. Once those three things are set, you can then proceed to the next step, which is to add your specific products. Does that make sense so far, that you've just got to do those three items before you go to self-fulfill? Perfect. So then once you've set up the basic backend settings, it's time to look at products. And there's two things you can do here. Pic-Time has amazing visualization. So as I've just chosen a whole heap of random lab products that you can see on the screen, uploaded an image, and then it's showcasing it to your clients. Obviously, we don't offer all these options. So the first step, if I was setting my products up, is I'll do a few things. I'd decide on a set of units. So like a lot of our products are set in inches. So if you're doing a self-fulfilled product, you might want to set it as inches. I would then go through and I'd untick any of the ones that I don't want to offer. But I'll just randomly unselect some. So cull it down to get the products to where we want them to be. Once we've culled it, we can look at what are the exact options that we want to offer for the BPro product self-fulfillment. So I'm going to start with metal prints. I'm going to click to edit. So there's a couple of things. I've already played around a little bit with this view. So you can see there's some product options at the top. If you are offering metal prints through us, for instance, you might want to turn some of those options off. So I'd go to mid-gloss, say satin, and I'll just check that they're not ticked, which is correct. So your client won't be seeing that. I'm offering a high gloss metal print option, and I can do a couple of things on this screen. If I'm using Pic-Time's preset products, I can't add my own size. So it's just a matter here of choosing which of the existing sizes that you want to offer for your client. I'd recommend keeping it super simple. Like obviously the more choices you offer the client, the more decision-itis, the more poor, they get it, they feel like they made the wrong choice. So check your sizes, choose your price. This is where, say, you can set the specific price for your client. Currently, you can't edit the cost if it's a self-fulfilled product. So your margin is not going to be accurate. Once we set sizes and cost, we can start looking at the product information that we want to make available. So I'm going to go up here, I'm going to go product info. Normally, this would be preset to another lab because, I started with the Bay Photo metal prints. So they were selected as a default option. So you can do this on any preset Pic-Time product though. So you can scroll down, find the self-fulfill option, click on it, add your own product description. We have a lot of content on our site and our support center that might give you some of the wording and the terminology. Add your own production time, add product photos. So I'm just going to choose some random ones. These are the individual product shots that display in the ordering section of your gallery. These are not the smart object visualizations, which we can look at later. There is this option that says send files automatically to the lab. We got really excited by this, but in practice, I don't think it's a fully developed feature yet. What it means if you have this option ticked is that when your client places an order and you approve it, we will get an individual email with a link to each of the files that they've ordered. However, Pic-Time doesn't provide the information about what the product is, what the size is, where it's been shipped to. So it would still be potentially quite messy. But once we've added our product information, added some product photos, we can go set to all items. So what we've done there is we've taken one of the existing Pic-Time products that's fulfilled by another lab. We've made it our own. So we've created something that we can self-fulfill. We've chosen the sizes, we've chosen the prices, we've added some product info and apply. So now that could be a option within your Pic-Time gallery that you can use to self-fulfill products. What happens though if you've got, say, like a size or a particular cropping that you're after that's not preset into that product? So that creates some challenges, in which case you might want to go and create a custom product. So at this point here, this is the slightly sort of more advanced part of how Pic-Time works. But as well as putting in general product photos, you can actually create your own smart object mockup. So you could take a picture of our products, or you could even take a picture from our smart objects that we provide in our drop boxes and create that same product visualization. So say with our timber boxes, you can set it up so then your client image displays when they're looking at it in the gallery. So we'll just very briefly look at how that would work. So when we've uploaded the image, there's this option that says personalize using client photos. So we're going to tick that, and then we're going to tick edit. And you can see that we're taken to a screen where we can add masks. So, sorry, my mouse is a little bit sticky. I'm going to add a few different photo boxes. You can see that I can angle it. So say the product image was from the side, you can create a much more realistic interpretation of it. And I'm going to apply. So it's quite small, but you can see actually that there I've created a smart object mockup. So Jasmine was asking about adding more than 3 photo masks. It's not something I was familiar with previously, Jasmine, but in our testing, we could actually add multiple ones. Katrina, do you know, is there a limitation on 4?
As far as I know, 4's the limit at this point. But I think it depends which way you do it, because the way that you're doing it now, I actually haven't done it that way. I've only ever created a custom product tile doing it via Photoshop. Like you take a file in, you know, you could create your transparent areas, and then I've taken that back in. Yeah, so sorry, I actually can't give you a definite answer. Apologies.
No worries at all. I'll actually find that out, and when we send it out, we'll clarify that as well. But that was like creating these smart object mockups is obviously, it's almost a topic in itself, but that was just a really quick demonstration to show the power of the platform, and the fact that you're not necessarily locked into the same product visualizations that Pic-Time provides. If you've got like a particular style or a particular aesthetic, you can make it a lot more personal to you. So that's custom products. Start changes. And I'll just show you very quickly what that looks like in practice. So here's one that I created very quickly before the Zoom. I'm using that method that I showed. So we uploaded one of our own smart objects. I quickly masked it, I saved it down, and then I was able to put through a dummy order using that product. Did anyone have any questions about product creation, or in setting it up yourself? Has there been some particular pain points that you've encountered? Yes, so Isabella mentioned the fact that when you create your own mock-ups, you need them in both portrait and landscape format. That obviously is a challenge. This is a new feature for us, like it's something we've only really recently discovered. So we would probably, as a long-term project, be happy to start trying to take some more Pic-Time friendly smart object mock-ups, the same image or the same formats in both ratios, because I can see how incredibly useful this would be. So Jasmine was asking about ornaments with different shapes and round masks and to mirror edges on the canvas. Round masks, Jasmine, I could probably send you some information separately because it's quite a complicated one to demonstrate. But as I understand it, you create a transparent PNG with your circular format. And when you upload that, you then mask out the shape where you want that circle to sit. So say it was a round torn edge, you might have your transparent PNG just sitting inside it. And then that will allow you to say superimpose a round image. I assume you could probably do the same with some of the more interesting ornament shapes, but haven't tried it myself. Perfect. So product creation in many ways is actually fairly straightforward. So if you can use the existing Pic-Time ones, it literally becomes a process of customizing the text to suit the product, customizing your prices, applying a particular shipping tier. Sorry, actually that's a step I skipped. So I can say, if I had created multiple shipping tiers, I can choose at this point to say, what do I want clients to have access to when they choose that particular product? And then just rinsing and repeating. So it's not necessarily a complicated task. It's just quite time consuming because you've got to go step by step through each product. There's then that secondary option in that if you want to customize it, if you want to make it more your own, you can set up this custom product and package, but you just would need to have a little bit of a play with the masking tool. It is actually surprisingly easy to use. So Jasmine asked about mock-ups of album pages through BPro. Jasmine, I'd be happy to demonstrate that to you, possibly one-on-one, but essentially you'd upload, say, the album spread as a mock-up, and then you'd create those photo boxes that I showed you and angle them so they're following the angle of the page. Joanne asked is there a way to order the products? So put metal prints further down in the list. I'm actually not sure, Joanne, and I hope you don't mind, Katrina. Is that something you'd be able to provide some advice on?
No, I don't mind at all. Yes, you can order them. Yeah, you literally just click and hold, and it'll move around. You know, so say you want to, you know, display your premium products first, you know, your frames or your albums or whatever. Yeah, you just move them around. Literally, you can see it happening now.
Oh yeah, fantastic. Super easy. Yes, would definitely. So at the next step, I'm going to launch the preview product, or preview gallery, just so you can see what it looks like from the client's perspective. But also, I want to show you what a test order looks like, because once you've got a self-fulfilled order, you still need to do something with it. And I'll talk through a couple of the options. Katrina's also popped in the help page for creating custom products into the chat, if anyone wants to copy it down. So now that we've covered creating the products, we're going to go to a test gallery. I'm going to go to the shop. Just wait for it to load. So as you can see here, I uploaded a couple of different test images just randomly from my downloads folder. And you can see that the products have been pre-populated into it. And a lot of the products, even though they're not specifically designed for BPro, are actually a really good match for what we offer. So, you know, your metal prints, your matted frames, your laid flat albums, your ornaments, all of them, I think, are a fairly honest representation of the product range. So it's certainly very usable. If we go into, say, metal prints, you can see we've got our cropping options. This is something to keep a bit of an eye on, though, is that I know from feedback from photographers that sometimes their clients are choosing very unusual crops and not necessarily realizing the implications, you know, like a very tight square one. So when you get the order in your cart, and I'll show you how to do that, it's always worth reviewing the particular crop. But so say the clients come along, they've chosen this beautiful wedding shot, they've wanted it as a 10 by 10 metal, they're going to add it to the cart. Proceed to checkout. So yes, so you can check and edit the crop, and I'll show you how you can copy and sort of edit to your cart. But because I'm putting it through as myself, it's discounted at 100%, which is good. I'll just quickly fill in an address. Got it. Sorry, it doesn't like my shipping address.
What are you doing, Dylan?
We might just pretend that that address worked, as I've already got this order in my cart. So once the client completes the checkout, if you've done it as offline payment, there's just an option that says, you know, are you ready to make payment? With Square and PayPal, it would actually move them through the checkout process. But then we'll go to sales and automations, we'll go to orders. When the order first comes into your system, it'll be on hold, because that's how we set it up for offline payments. You'd need to review it at that point, or you can approve it. You can see that there's a number of self-fulfill orders that I've been testing with. I'm going to click on it and bring it up. So I think, Katrina, is this what you were referring to in that you can actually copy and edit there. So if the client, say, has emailed you and said, I want a 10 by 10, I didn't mean to get a 10 by 10 crop, I want it to be rectangle, you can actually take it into your view of their gallery and edit and update it at that point. You can have a look at, you can download the original photo they've sent. You can download a CSV. There's also this interesting function here, which is quite useful, but requires a bit of attention, called update photos. So say, for instance, the client's checked out with a photo and then you've realized that you want to make, like, retouch something in it. If you create a file that has exactly the same name as this, and it's important that it has the same name because I understand that Pic-Time uses that to keep track of the particular order, you can then overwrite that image in this view without having to go back to the client or without having to do it manually. Later on, when your order ships, you can mark it as shipped and add tracking information, which would obviously allow you to take advantage of Pic-Time sort of automated emails. That you can also download that, and I'll just open it up so you can see what it looks like. Sorry, I just realized you can't see my screen. I'm going to change shares. So using that download function, it's downloaded just for that particular order line, both the original high resolution image and the cropped layout. If the client had, say, ordered multiple copies, this would say like 2 copies, 3 copies. So let me switch back to Pic-Time. Yep, so just to sort of summarize what we did there, we can alter and edit what they've created. We can look at the specific photos. We can download them to self-fulfill. This is a point where, sorry, there's a question. Let me just have a look. If you edit the photos and then name them the same and update the photo, is there a way of checking that the right one has been replaced? I think how this works, Jasmine, and I'm definitely not an expert on Pic-Time, is that once you've updated it, you should be able to go back and have a look at the product photos and, like, say, re-download it and just check that the, yeah, as Katrina says, that just visually check that the file that you wanted was there. So in terms of self-fulfillment, we've got it in our cart. You may already have payment that you processed. The next step is to get it to us. And this is actually something that's a little bit of a long-term project for us, in that we'd like to make it as seamless as possible. In that, obviously, if you're self-fulfilling, you don't have that really convenience function that comes from an integrated lab. So we're looking at ways that we can make this easier for you. We were hoping that the send to files option would be a good one, in which case we could set up a specific Pic-Time ordering email, take your orders and just manually place them in the system for you at our end. I don't think that feature is there yet, but as it develops, that's certainly something we'll be reaching out to photographers to test. As an alternative, we are always happy to take orders over email as well. So you don't necessarily need to upload them through our system. So if, for instance, you received a self-fulfilled order, you'd be welcome just to download all the different zips, send them to us as one Dropbox or one WeTransfer link with the client details that you get from this same screen, as you can see on the shipping information. And we would then process it for you into the system. So you'd still get the same trackability. You'd still get all the order notifications. What else? That's covered all the basic setup information. Oh, okay. So frame mockups, do we have to upload each frame photo in each size? It seemed like a lot of work to prepare all those photos. My suggestion there, Jasmine, would be if you can get away with...
You were on the list. I've got 4 promotions. I will double check. No.
Yeah, if you could get away with using the preset Pic-Time frame product, that would help, I think, cover all your different size options. Unfortunately, I think if you are wanting to fully customize it, so it would be a matter of setting up at least the basic size ratios. So setting up a square, rectangle, all your different crops.
I didn't want to keep on the list. I got promotions. I will double check.
Did anyone have any questions or feedback on the self-fulfillment process for Pic-Time? In particular, we would be interested in chatting about how we can make it easier. So whether it's resources, whether it's us helping create some of the base objects to create custom products, whether it's ways we can help you more efficiently place the order.
Can I just say something?
Yeah, hi, Jim.
It's almost looking too complicated. I've tried to set up, but why I asked if I could see the customer's order screen is I went in and I just had to go with canvases. But when I clicked on the product, I got all the canvases instead of, because I'd picked out just the sizes I wanted. And just the time it takes to set everything up. I'd rather just perhaps put a picture in each box so people can see what the product looks like, and then talk to the customer about their order. I'm just finding setting up the products.
No,
I mean, what you've shown us is really good, and it's made more sense than what it has so far. I just getting my head around it all. And I mean, the gallery part works for me, the slideshow, all the other stuff works for me, but just trying to integrate those products into the process.
That's actually a really interesting segue, because one of the things that we've considered offering is a done for you self-fulfillment setup, so that potentially at a very reasonable price point. And we just need to solve the issues around, say, secure access to the account without having access to your password, but having one of our staff actually go in and configure all the products for you.
Okay.
Would that potentially solve some of the pain points, or?
It possibly would, because what I'm trying to do is actually reduce the number of products that I offer. I think sometimes clients just get bamboozled by what's on offer. I do pet photography, so the customers there don't necessarily want all the big wall collections and things like that. They like the wood prints, they like a small matted print, they like an album. And I'm trying to promote the framed print or the canvas with a collage on it. And I'm quite happy. I can put together my own collages, that's not a problem. And just sort of promote sort of packages that just have 2 or 3 main products in them, and people can swap around.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the simplest options are possible. It's that, like, understand, I go to a restaurant and if there's 60 things on the menu, I'm going to take 15 minutes to choose. I'd actually rather there's kind of 3, of which 2 I don't really like.
I went to a Vietnamese restaurant on the weekend down in Sydney. It was like reading War and Peace.
Yeah. But just to answer the question about the sizes, when you went to customize the products,
Yes,
did you do the same thing that you unticked all the sizes that you weren't keen on?
yes, I did. But then when I pretended I was a customer looking at the product, all the unticked sizes came up. I'll have to go in again and have another look.
So if you have a look, for instance, I unticked 5x5, and then if we go over to the gallery view, it's hidden that as well. Two things you may want to look at is just that you save the changes, but also the set all items.
Okay.
But so I'm just going to quickly go. There's been a few different questions. I'm going to go through them. Let me just skip back.
Okay, thank you.
Celeste, we do have mock-up images. I will include them in the email I send out with the recording. To make them work in Pic-Time, I think we would have to expand it a little bit. In particular, virtually none of them come in both a portrait and a landscape orientation. So I'll need to think about how we handle that for people. Let's have a look. Jasmine asked about showing mirrored images on a canvas, and it crops into the photo rather than mirrors them. I'm not actually sure of that question, Jasmine. I'm happy to chase it up. That might just be a limitation of how the visualization is being set up by Pic-Time. Collage. So, Katrina mentioned that if you choose a frame product, there's collage options already. So that's definitely something that's worth picking it out. As she points out, though, that limits you to the sizes. So you can definitely use the existing Pic-Time products for self-fulfillment, but the primary limitation there is that you've got to work within the sizes that they offer. So Kerry, your question about sort of 9-ups and storyboards, I understand that there you'd need to choose, I think, the matted frame option within the existing Pic-Time products, and that should open it up for you. Have a look.
You can do either, Liam.
Oh, okay. So both matted and non-matted frames.
Correct.
Yep, perfect. Let me see if there's any other questions I missed. Oh, Jasmine, so when you talk about clients changing sizes, is that where they place the order and then send you a subsequent email saying, oops, I meant it to be something else?
No, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Sorry, I didn't realize I was off mute anyway. More, so like I say, a 20 by 20 frame, like a 9-up, that they all of a sudden they want a 30 by 30 or something. So Katrina was just saying that there are duos, trios and quads in the system, but you have to go with their sizing. But sometimes I'll get a family that, you know, they just want to up level a frame. They sort of stick with a 20, and then they're like, actually, no, can we get that 30 by 30? So if that's going to make that trickier, I guess, when it comes to ordering.
Yeah, I suspect in that case, if that happens, you just have to move the order entirely outside Pic-Time, which obviously still is an option if you self-fulfill because payment hasn't gone to Pic-Time. But if it's a size that you can't change within your cart, that would then just be a matter of sending us the images and saying, hey, can you make it up as a 30 by 30 for us?
Mm-hmm. I just want to say I'm really loving Pic-Time. Like I've been, I put together all the shopping cart a couple of weeks ago, and I found it really easy to put it all together. It's time consuming, but I'm loving it so much better than Shoot Proof, which I was with for 8 years. I'm much happier with it. So that's why I really want to get this right, because currently I'm getting canvases through somewhere else, which I don't want. I want them to go through you guys. So yeah, it's really good to do this shoot. So thank you.
You can also do a mix of self-fulfilled and lab-fulfilled products. I wouldn't do it within the same product. So like offer certain sizes from a lab, certain size self-fulfilled. But if you wanted to keep an existing integrated lab, but add BPro canvases, you can just change your canvases to self-fulfilled and still have that come through the same checkout cart.
I'm doing that currently. Like I want to have everything go through BPro, but currently I'm doing the albums through somewhere else, just because I'm finding the interface easier for those templates. That's why I was asking about that, because I'd like that to eventually go for BPro, but it's just taking the time to, as you say, upload templates to put the boxes in and stuff. It's just going to take a while.
Yeah. I might drop you an email afterwards just to get some more feedback on that particular point.
Okay.
Just in case there's something that we can do that would make it easier. Garth asked, does Pic-Time resize the file to the print size? Yeah, so when you looked, Garth, at the sort of dummy order that I downloaded, you see that it provided both the original copy and it provided a crop to size original. So that would meet our needs, and that it doesn't actually need to be the exact size, it just needs to be in the right ratio. So as long as we're getting the cropped version of the file that Pic-Time provides, then that would certainly work with us. Isabella mentioned that when doing custom products, you have to use landscape images, not portrait, to do the mock-ups. That's one I'm not sure about. Is that something you can comment on, Katrina?
As in you can't get it to populate portrait orientation photos. Is that what do you think what Isabella means? Because you can do both. You actually have to do both because because the system wants to be able to show the client their photos in your product, regardless of whether they choose their favorite as a landscape orientation or a portrait. So you actually have to have both.
Isabella, when you were setting it up, where was the point where you found it wasn't possible? Oh, okay. So do you mean, Isabella, that when you upload the source, like the base product image, it's the overall image has to be landscape, even if the product within it is portrait? That's actually probably a point for us as well, in that if we may need to have a look at the styles of images that we can provide you.
Yeah, now I understand. Yeah. So if you don't have a product mock-up that's portrait, sorry, it is portrait. Yeah, you're saying you can't use it.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah, so you'd have to crop it or reshoot it, source it somewhere else. Yeah.
But to get back to your point, Jasmine, yeah, we've actually looked at all three platforms in preparation for this, and I think Pic-Time in many ways is far ahead of Shootproof and Pixieset. It does have possibly a steeper learning curve, and I know a lot of people who've started the Pic-Time process and then hit a stumbling block, and then not been able to continue it. But I do know, in talking to Pic-Time support, that they're working on some, like, an onboarding process, I think, specifically for Pic-Time photographers, that will provide a bit more guidance on how to set it up, rather than, at the moment, you kind of have to know that a function exists to look for it. And if you don't know that function exists, you'll probably never realize it.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of sort of automations that you have to add and things like that, that if you're not aware, that you don't add them. But Katrina's been great and their support is excellent. I have to say, I've been bothering them a lot lately.
Did anyone have any last questions before we wrap up? So Dennis asked about creating albums. Katrina, did you want to mention a little bit about the album designer within Pic-Time?
Yeah, so Pic-Time has its own album builder. So in terms of, you can either design, your spreads outside of Pic-Time in something like Fundy or Smart Albums, a specific, product proofer and or builder, or you can actually, it has its own album design functionality. It's not as, it's not as powerful as the dedicated programs, but in terms of just creating sort of clean, modular, drag and drop designs, you can do that. Yeah, there's over 100 templates in there. So the idea being that, photographers can either use it to design albums themselves, or that people shopping can actually, DIY their own design. So both is possible. Did you have a more specific question at all, Dennis?
Yeah, hi, sorry. I think it's more leaning towards the customers designing their own album within Pic-Time. So if they've got that template on there, that pretty much should be self-explanatory for them. Yeah,
so they would, when they open up the product, I don't know if Liam can show you if he's got it in his shop, an album there, from the client end of things. But you just open it up and it's straight away, you can actually auto design one for them. So it'll prompt them if they want it to be auto designed, or start from fresh.
Yep. So you can see I've got on the screen, there's the view album, which is the automated one. So I didn't provide many images. And you can see, so it's done a basic layout already, that the client can then jump in and move them around. Let me jump back. No thanks. And we'll go start from fresh. So you can see there that there's the, you can add pages, you can edit. So, there's templates at the top. So perhaps more similar to like album stock, kind of that level of functionality, which is still potentially powerful enough for many people. Katrina mentions that there's a $5 per downloaded album design fee if you're using the software, but self-fulfilling. That actually seems really reasonable, particularly if you get in the client to design their own. It's a massive hassle off your back. Isabella, yeah, absolutely. So you'll note that Pic-Time has lay flat albums and fine art albums. As I understand it, I think the only difference in the presets is paper type. So a lay flat is equivalent of our flush mount or luster albums. A fine art is equivalent of our espresso. So you can certainly use them and just customize it, some of the text that goes with them. But you don't need to set the album up as a completely customized product.
Yeah, you'd be silly too. You'd definitely use the builder that's already there for most cases.
As well as the cleaner, are you able to mock some of the wall art collections? Hobart. So we do actually have room views for all the collections, Jasmine. I'll have a bit of an experiment to see how well they translate to the custom product creation. And I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Perfect. If there's no more questions, I might wrap up, but just very quickly that, just going back to that idea of whether or not people would be interested in like a done for you setup in Pic-Time. We're just gathering feedback to see whether or not we'd invest some kind of time and resources into the back end of how that would work. Regardless, we're committed to trying to support Pic-Time a little bit, well, quite a bit better than we did in the past. I'm going to be doing some training with staff as well. So if there's any kind of basic questions on self-fulfillment, our staff should be able to help as well.
My only thing is, as long as it means that you guys don't lose out, because I know that Mark Risotto said something along the lines of it could potentially damage your margins or something like that. So I'm only a yes if it doesn't affect you guys, because we want you as our suppliers more than anything. That's most important because you're awesome. So my yes is with that, you know. Yeah. Otherwise, if it's going to affect you, then I wouldn't I'd prefer to, you know, for us all to individually deal with whatever we need to deal with on our end, and have you guys keeping your costs low and being in business.
No, I really appreciate that. And I think the self-fulfillment angle might be the sweet spot, in that if we can take out some of the pain points for people, that obviously, but still have that really direct connection with clients and that ability to service kind of any issues or concerns or questions without filtering it via a third party, that might be sort of the ideal point to end up, which is not to say that we wouldn't look at integration in the future, but it's such a long-term project with any of these, like they're talking years sometimes, that I'm hoping that this might be a better point. Just Jeff, yeah, I think, for instance, for you, having someone else set up your gallery might be a good way to take out some of those pain points. Perfect. Thank you to everyone who connected today. If you're interested in any of the other platforms, we did Pixie Set yesterday. We're doing Shootproof on Friday. We've also got a Zoom tomorrow with our artist business coach on using sales funnels, so online sales funnels for repeatable sales. Although it's aimed at visual artists, a lot of the basic elements are going to be very relevant to photographers as well. But we'll, yeah, and as usual, I'll send out an email in the next 24 hours with a link to this recording. I'm also super happy if there's questions that you wanted to ask and you didn't get a chance to ask them this afternoon, just reply back by email and we'll see what we can do. But yeah, otherwise have a great afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Esme.
Thank you.
Thanks heaps, guys.